Joe.
All right, here we go. Hi, my name is Jason McMillan with Viral Marketing, and welcome back to the Generosity Generation Hangout. Michael Maher is with us as always, and we have Mickey Pascarella with us as well. Michael, why don't you go ahead and take over?
Will do. Jason, first of all, thanks a million to Viral Marketing and Jason McMillan for hosting and moderating this and making sure that the technology works without a hitch. And praise God, we're looking solid right now. And first and foremost, thank you. And the second thing is I tell you, Mickey, definitely appreciate you. For those the people that don't know you, why don't you give us a brief introduction of Mickey Pascarella and your background? And I have to tell you, I know one thing that the people that are watching are going to want to know. It's like, how did you get into real estate and propel yourself to to where you are now? But really, how did you start?
So this is year 9 with my brokerage activity. My last class in college was actually a class on it was independent studies. So I could do whatever I wanted, and I wanted to learn how to get rich really fast. So I read a bunch of books on how to build wealth and how to get wealthy, and they all led back to real estate. Mm-hmm. So, some 15 years later, I said, you know what, let me dust off that thought about getting into real estate, and I did. So I was buying and selling homes, I was buying and holding homes, but I never got into the brokerage side of things, and I should have done that a long time ago. This is year 9 of waking up.
Wow. And So and I have to tell you, what's funny is similar pathway for me is that I was a teacher and I was reading books, and a lot of them were like, I knew that I wanted to invest in real estate, so I thought, hey, you know what, I'll get my real estate license to learn more about real estate. But as you and I both know, you actually learn nothing about real estate when you are learning about real estate, right? You actually learn how to pass a test.
True story.
And then from there, it just kind of grows on you, doesn't it? I mean, this industry does.
Yep.
And I want to tell all the Generosity Generation and the people that are hanging out with us today is that this is a special episode because Mickey took it upon himself to do something that I've never heard before, at least not purposefully and intentionally. There's all these challenges out there now. There's 66-day challenges. There's 90-day challenges. There 90 listings in 90 days. There's 90 clients in 90 days. There's 90 calls in 90 days. There's 90 calls in 1 day. And I don't know if Mickey knew this or not naturally, but we have found in all of our research for the Generosity Generation and the 7L system is that there seems to be a common component to the most referred professional. If you want to be the most referred professional in your community, there is a common component, and I don't want it to be this. In fact, I wanted the research to find it out that it wouldn't be this. I literally, it's like, please, don't make this as important as I thought it would be. But that one ingredient, that one component that has helped people become the most referred real estate professional or most referred mortgage professional in their community, ladies and gentlemen, it's one-on-ones. It is one-on-ones, and it is meeting people face-to-face. It's the highest level of the 7 levels of communication. So what does Mickey do? Mickey takes it upon himself, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this, to do 90 one-on-ones in 90 days. 90 one-on-ones in 90 days. But the thing is he isn't just doing this to meet these people. He has been journaling and being super reflective about what this is really all about. So Mickey, tell us about, first of all, the thought process that you went through. Why 90 one-on-ones in 90 days?
Well, and Michael, you nailed it. We in our industry, we've got lots of challenges, and it's always about challenging yourself and professional growth and personal growth and coming up with the next greatest idea or thing or just always making sure you're growing. So I wanted to do a challenge, but I also wanted to find a challenge that wasn't all about just hard sales. I wanted to find a challenge that felt like it was going a little bit beyond. So I felt like if I could just kind of come from contribution and meet people without the expectation of earning a listing or without the expectation of them buying a condo from me, I thought that might be something. Turns out that it is.
Let me ask you this. First of all, we haven't even talked about where you're from other than Philadelphia. And interestingly enough, Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, even though I have seen instances of you guys snowballing Santa Claus. But that's a whole nother story. And you know what? The guy deserved it. He totally did. That's a Philly saying, by the way. But the city of brotherly love. So you're not, you're being an example of the city of brotherly love in this case. And I'm actually going to tell a little story later on about William Penn, who actually started Philadelphia, that will shock people's world a little bit. And I'll do that at the end of the second segment. But it's one of those where I love that is that one of the key factors that we found to being successful with the 7L system and the Generosity Generation is to quit looking at people as potential clients and start looking at people as potential referral sources. And the key is everyone knows someone. Every single person you meet knows someone who's going to be buying, selling, or investing in real estate. So the thing is all of a sudden we treat everyone important, $1 million VIP, and when you start treating people that way, it's uncanny as you start generating referrals. So 90 one-on-ones, and how did you get started, and what was the biggest challenge for you to get started, right? And we'll talk about the progress as we go, but what was the biggest challenge when you got started?
Biggest challenge was getting 90 people to agree to meet me and not having them cancel. I mean, it's a lot of work, and so I didn't account for weekends when a lot of folks were not available, and I didn't want to kind of bend them to come meet me on a Sunday morning.
Right.
So I did them all during the week, and the biggest issue was, and I was proud of myself, but picked myself a little bit, is I didn't get ready to do it. I just did it. So I didn't build up a pipeline of people that said yes. I didn't do it a couple weeks in advance. I just started on Monday and began to make calls and send out emails. So it was just hard to get ramped up because I was running. I'm running a team. I've got eight people on the team, and we're selling some houses. And I had this was on top of that. And if you do it the way I wanted to do it, it's a lot of work. So that was a big challenge.
Yeah. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your market, and because what happens uncannily is that people want to refer the person that we have on the Gen Hangout because you're obviously referable. So if they were to refer, what are some ways for them to refer you?
So we're right in Center City. We've got I'm walkable to 2,500 condominium units in the city. So we do a lot of condo work. Part of what came out of the 90 and 90 is I did a real focus on meeting private lenders, private money lenders. So I think I've got commitments for up to $3 million in private money. So we're buying, fixing, and rehabbing and repositioning houses in the super hot neighborhoods to end retail buyers. So I'm able to build up a little bit of a pipeline of people who are looking to buy something. Our market's super, super, super hot. If you talk about looking at what's available in the neighborhoods that are super hot, there is nothing. Anything rehabbed and done sells almost before it hits the market. So we're making that market with new products. So I can do some of that too for people who can refer me.
You know what I love about that is you're creating your own inventory, right? Everybody's talking about inventory shortage, and when there is an inventory shortage, we have to get creative. We have to get innovative as to how to create, and that's where you take an apartment complex and you do a condo conversion, or that's where, in your case, you're taking these units and doing a rehab model and fix them up. There's opportunities everywhere, right?
That's exactly.
So, and I love that. So was one of your purposes going into the 90 days and 90 one-on-ones to get the private money or was that just a result of it?
No, that was absolutely one of my big focuses. Is where I met people who I felt like could lead me in the right direction, and it turned out to be sort of the easy byproduct of meeting great people. It was very surprising.
Huh. So it was actually easy to get $3 million essentially. Right?
It was quite easy.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it for a little while, and and people knew, a lot of people knew who I was, or got a referral from somebody who knew who I was. So it wasn't a bunch of strangers in the phone book. People knew me, and that was kind of the idea.
Right.
You didn't know I was doing the private raise, but you knew who I was.
Okay.
Mickey,
what day did you start?
Go ahead, Michael.
I was just saying, what day did you start? Mickey, what day did you start?
On a Monday, about 99 days from now. Before now.
Okay. I think when we did a call a month or two ago, you said it was in April something. Does that sound right at all?
It sounds about right.
Okay, maybe April.
You might imagine it was a total blur. 89 days after.
I get it. So, Jason, you had a question as well?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, how did you develop the list of people that you were contacting, and how many people did you contact in order to get those 90 meetings?
Great question. So I had a list of who I call my core advocates, people who I knew would meet, people I knew would help me meet others, and there was about 25 of those. And I think I probably set about 130 appointments to get to 90. Actually, I got to 92 meetings. So 25% fell out, and I was pretty happy with that. I mean, stuff happens. It wasn't a hard meeting where there was money changing hands. It was coffee and tea at the Ritz-Carlton. So if you had something that was pressing, I understood that people couldn't make it. So only about a quarter said, "Listen, I can't do it. Can we reset it?"
Mm-hmm. Jason, great question, and I have to tell you, the other question that kind of follows along that was, where, did you meet all these people at the same place, or did you meet haphazardly? And you kind of answered that it was the Ritz-Carlton, and you always did coffee or tea, not a lunch or anything like that.
Not a lunch. They do a really nice tea and a great cappuccino. The lobby is phenomenal, luxurious. They welcome you to come hang out and sit down. It was great. But yeah, it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 30 minutes to get you in, get you out. I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I'm not going to make you eat something if you don't want to. Let's thanks for your time. Here's what I'd like to do.
I love it. So, did you have all these one-on-ones solo? Like you went there, you had the one-on-one, and you were done, or did you stack any of these?
I tried to stack as many as I could, and I also brought a team member with me if they were available. If they helped me set up the referral or the 90 and 90, they would come if they were available to share in the process and do all of that. So I wanted to make it as much of a team thing as possible without making them go to 90 meetings.
Yeah. Did you sit in the same place, in the same corner, in the same restaurant?
I sat in the very same table 95% of the time. It wasn't always available, but most of the time, everyone knows who I am. I know them all by name. I told them what I was doing. It worked exactly like the book says it worked.
So home court advantage is now the really nice, huge building so that you could office out of it every single day and be called by name, and basically people think you own this place.
That was nice of them.
I love it. All right, and then so what did you find? And I have to tell you, I think in 2 ways, right? I think in process and I think in promotion, right? So some of the things I'm going to talk about are going to be, what did you do to assure the process worked properly? And then the other part of it is what did you say during the meetings, and what was your follow up, to kind of what was the promotion, how did you take it to the next level, right? So the process, what did you change between the first meetings to the last meetings when it came to the process of setting the appointment, confirming the appointment, and perhaps even setting the table for the actual appointment?
Well, the boring piece is we got to using a calendar function called Simply Book Me. That made the process of people needing to move their time and picking a Thursday versus a Tuesday. They didn't need to ping me. I didn't need to ping them again about looking at the calendar. So we got a little better technology. In terms, I always kept it at 2 or 3 o'clock on weekday afternoons, and I kept it very succinct. And I'll tell you what. One of the big things I learned is that they were really impressed with both me reaching out complimentary and saying, listen, I'd like to meet you, and I'm looking to meet 90 business leaders and 90 community leaders in 90 days. You're certainly one of them. Would you come meet me for tea at the Ritz? So they were impressed by me saying that they qualified, so to speak, for the meeting. And the second piece was most people were really impressed with the process. And I had a list of 4 very direct questions. There was a great conversation that went to most of the meetings, but it really was about getting the 4 questions answered. The questions are very complimentary. The questions are very, I thought, relatively thoughtful. It took a little while to come up with them, and I modified them as I went. And people were.
We're going to get into that, Mickey. Don't share the questions quite yet, because I think the what you say at the meeting, honestly, is almost secondary to getting the appointment. Right, making the process professional and impressive, right? Like you said, and you've been so reflective through this that it's been beautiful. I have to tell you that. Not a lot of people. A lot of people just live reactively, and whatever happens right then and there, and that's it, right? That's woohoo, next. And you have been so introspective and reflective, and it's very profound that people were impressed with the process, right? They were impressed by you confirming, by you using a technology to set up a one-on-one. And what's funny about that is listen, you're an impressive guy anyway, but them being impressed by the process is profound because anybody can do it, right? That's the power of a process. Is that, listen, it doesn't matter if you're blue, green, black, white, you're female, male, you're tall, you're skinny, you're whatever it is you can be very impressive from a process standpoint. Your system can be sexy, baby, right? And so that's the first thing, that they're already impressed before you sit down with them, and that's an aha. That is a teaching moment right there.
Great point.
So you used Simply Book Me to book the appointment, and then it automatically sent out like 2 confirmations, right? 24 hours and then an hour. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Simply Book Me. Now, was there anything else in the process that you changed along the way?
I moved, question-wise, I moved the question about me way to the bottom.
So so the process of Deering, it was you, instead of asking your question first, you asked it last, right? Okay. All right. And I honestly, we've got about 16 minutes in this first segment, and between 6 and 16 minutes in this next segment. So what I really want to do is, so let's talk about, like, what were your survey questions, and then how did that get tweaked as we went on? Because in the second segment, what I really want to do is start talking about the people you met, and I'm going to ask you some very pointed questions about them. And some of these you may not have thought about before, so I'm going to put you on a little bit of a spot in the second half. And you're ready for it because you've journaled about this and you've thought about it a lot. So what are the 4 questions that you ask at all of these one-on-ones?
So I had them keyed up the whole time, and I made sure I didn't skip any unless it didn't sound appropriate. First one was if you had to point to one thing that you either learned, developed over time, or were just born with that makes you successful, what would that be? The second one was, when successful people like you make mistakes, they learn from them, they're better for the mistake, and they plow ahead. But if I could give you a life do-over or a life mulligan, where you went left and really should have gone right, what would that be? Third question was, Gary Keller says that unless you've gotten everything you'd want out of life, you probably could use another relationship or two. Through this exercise, we're meeting lots of great folks and making deep connections. With that in mind, who can we introduce you to going forward? Who do you need to meet? And the last question, after all of that, was simply, who do you know that I should know?
I love the exact implementation, right? I love did those change? Was your first one these 4 questions and your 92nd one these 4 questions? Because you're really articulate. I think these questions grew in length over time, but you tell me. Is that what happened?
No, they definitely did, and I had the toughest time with the first one. I really wanted them to tell me the one thing that made them successful, but when I asked it that way, I didn't get a great response. I didn't hone in on what I wanted to hear, so I had to add a lot more color to most of the questions to get to what I really wanted to hear.
That's such a key ingredient. I want everybody to write this down that's listening to this today. Is communication is 100% about the response. Communication is 100% about the response. If you're not getting the right response, then guess what? It's your communication. But Mickey and Jason, it's just like, it's not taught. That is not taught anywhere. What we're taught is, hey, just say it how you want to say it, and if they don't answer it right, it's their own head cheese that's causing the problem. It's their own problem. But the answer is no, it's not. Communication is 100% about the response. If you're not getting the response you want, we need to change our communication. And that's exactly what you did, is you adapted your communication to get the response you want. And that's what's so powerful, in my opinion, about the 7L system and what we do with the Generosity Generation is we care about every single word. I mean, literally every word matters, and we analyze and break down every word to make sure it's going to elicit the response we want, right? And that's what I love about your questions is I could tell those are orchestrated. Those have been developed and honed with an attitude of excellence and success, right? So kudos to you on that right off the bat, is that just that thought alone will carry you to the end of the earth in this world, right? If you're not getting the response you want, change your communication, right? So, yeah.
Mickey,
Jason.
I have a question. Yeah, you know, we kind of talked about how just impressive the process was. When you met with anyone, did you have anybody express interest in imitating this and wanting to do their own 90 meetings in 90 days?
You know what? When I brought a team member, they in fact, 2 of my guys have kicked off their own 90 and 90s after the first 90 and 90. I was hoping they would take the lead. I didn't force them. I was hoping they would do it, and they did. I didn't get anyone specifically to say, you know, I'm going to do that next, but I had a lot of very thoughtful looks on people's faces saying, you know, I bet I could do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you establish yourself as kind of the master of that in the area, you know, that's going to be a point of contact where they can come back to you. You know, maybe a month or 2 down the road, you get a call from somebody you meet with, and they're like, hey, Mickey, haven't talked to you in a while, but I am planning on starting my own 90 meetings in 90 days. Just wanted some, you know, feedback of where to start. Is that something that you maybe thought that could happen when you were setting these meetings up?
You know, so earlier we talked about the challenge nature of you know, this process, the 90 and 90, the 60 and 60, the 66-day challenge. I absolutely would like this to develop into something much bigger where that becomes the thing that I focus on, kind of as my one thing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and you hit it on the head, right? It is that if it's the one thing, right? Which is, what is the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier and or unnecessary. And honestly, in the referral game, the one-on-one is that thing, right? I mean, you build enough intimate, quality, powerful relationships with the right people, you don't have to do anything else.
That's right.
Because you're meeting one-on-one with the right people. So, I'll tell you, just as a wrap-up to this segment, and Mickey, the way we do this is we do the ramp up and ramp down of the first segment in 30 minutes, and we actually break this into an audio, right? And then the second segment is another 30-minute segment. So we break it into two segments so that we get two products out of it, but you also kind of get two out of it as well, because I'm going to have you share your information in the second segment as well. But some summary items on this is first of all is that just get going, right? I love that you jumped out of the plane and you built your parachute on the way. And guess what? It was okay, right? It was okay. And the other one is systems are sexy, baby. You can be impressive. You can be more impressive with a great process. Systems are sexy. And then the other thing that you hit on the head with that I just love is that team members are inspired by behavior. People, if there's one commonality that is a big problem in real estate, is that, the leaders want the people to do things that they're not doing, right? But that's a problem, is that they need to see you doing it. In fact, what you do screams so loudly that they can't hear what you're saying. And you modeled it, and they listen, it became their idea to do the 90 in 90 days, even though it was kind of your idea, but it was their idea to take their own and do it in 90 days. And then the other thing that I think really needs to be reinforced here is that you showed that you're a goal setter and a goal achiever to every one of these people that you met, and just know that either subconsciously or consciously, people want to network and partner and refer people who set goals. And in fact, our research shows those who have goals are better referral partners, are better referral sources. And what's funny is your 90 in 90 days, it was just you were not only telling them you had a goal, but they were actually part of the experience of you achieving your goal. And that's a powerful concept. The other thing I have to reinforce is just, listen, Gen people, 7L system, coaching clients, if you don't have a home court advantage yet, you're messing up. Get a home court advantage. Get a booth. Get a seat somewhere. Somebody built a building just for you. They built a building just for you that you don't have to pay for. All you have to do is go in there and set. And if you sit there long enough, people will think you're the owner. So, I mean, those are just the ahas from the first segment. If you're excited by that, stick by us with the second segment because it's even better. And I want you to know that this is Mickey Pascarella. He's in Center City, Philadelphia. Mickey, if we were to want to get a hold of you to refer you, what's a phone number, email address, what's the data on how to refer you?
So we're Mickey Pascarella Realestate.com. I'm on the Facebook and the LinkedIn, and I'll give you my cell, 215-680-1630. I'm a good texter.
Fantastic. What's your email, Mickey?
Mickey at themickeygroup.com.
Mickey at the Mickey Group. Is it themickeygroup.com?
Yes.
Do you ever get any confusion with Disney at all with that?
You might not be surprised that when I'm on the phone and they're not sure what if I said Mickey or Nikki, I say Mickey like the mouse.
Okay, and they instantly understand what you're talking about.
They do indeed.
So we're gonna so that's the end of the second segment today. I hope the summary is just right on for people. And this is Mickey Pascarella from Center City, Philadelphia. My name is Michael J. Mayer of the Generosity Generation, the 7L system, wrote a book called 7L, the 7 Levels of Communication. The 7 levels of communication, the highest level of communication is the one-on-one, and we're talking to Mickey about 90 one-on-ones in 90 days. The challenge that he set upon himself, a goal that he has achieved. He's actually done 92 one-on-ones. And so this is segment number 2. We're going to rotate right into segment number 2. And I'll tell you, so what your 4 questions, I'm just repeat the 4 questions that you asked them so that we can really branch off of that for this second segment.
Sure. So the first one is, you're a professional who's enjoyed considerable success. If you had to point to the one thing that you either learned, developed over time, or were just born with, that makes you successful, what would that be?
What was the most let's branch off of that, right? So what was the most interesting answer that you got to that question?
Poker.
Yeah, wow.
Someone told me that their prowess at poker was what made them successful. They're a personal injury attorney.
Wow. So negotiation's a part of what that person does.
That and being able to run the numbers on whether a case was worth taking or not.
Wow.
What the payoff.
Wow. So that's interesting. So let me ask you, Mickey, right? So what's the one thing that you've learned or developed or born with that you feel has made you the success you are to this day?
It's relationships, and the aha from that, and the one thing from that was that although I gave relationships the least amount of time, they're by far the most powerful arsenal, a piece of my arsenal for building not only business but personal too.
Yeah. So what was the second question?
Second one is, when successful people like you make mistakes, they learn from them, they're better for them, and they plow ahead. But if I could give you a life do-over or a life mulligan where you turn left and really should have gone right, what would that be?
Yeah. So what is a life do-over that Mickey would like in his life?
So it's tempting to say there isn't one because you learn from everything.
Yeah.
But for me, if I look at my business, this is year 9 in the brokerage piece, and I was really focused on the cold calls and internet leads and dialing the phone for 3 hours a day and expired listings and all the stuff that's taught out there, and it all works. But every single year, no matter what I do, the biggest chunk of my business comes from people that know me.
Yeah.
If I just spent the time on that versus all the calls, my business would feel much easier. And that was this year's goal, to make it feel easier.
Yeah, you sound like an advertisement for the 7L system and the Generosity Generation, brother.
I read the book and I'm a coaching client.
Well, so relationships, which is kind of interesting because you have a superpower in relationships, but it's been a superpower that's been a little bit latent until this 90 one-on-ones in 90 days occurred, right?
Yeah. It's been by accident, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah. And you're no different than a lot, right? I mean, in real estate, what's funny is, you look at every agent's business, and a majority of their business comes from repeat and referral, and the least amount of time they spend is on repeat and referral. Yeah. So, wow, what if they just spent time, purposeful time on relationships, on building? What's funny is, what's the worst case scenario about that? The worst case scenario, you have a bunch of great friends. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is you have this army of ambassadors who are just begging to refer you. They speak highly of you and they refer you willingly.
Yeah.
Jason, you had a
exactly.
I'm sorry, Jason, you had a comment too?
I was just going to ask too, before you had these meetings, how did you preface them? Did people know kind of what they were getting into? Did you give them any kind of idea about the questions or the conversation that you were going to have, give them a little time to think, or did you find people maybe caught a little bit off guard?
Initially, it was all email invites with phone call follow-ups, and the email said, "I'm looking to connect with 90 people in 90 days. It's a challenge. I've challenged myself, and I'd love you to help me in my challenge." So it was both a compliment and acknowledgement of the fact that this is a challenge in a tight time frame. So if you want to help me, and I hope that you do, here's how it works. So they did know what to expect. The 4 questions were I didn't disclose that in the first email, but when I said this actually has 4 questions in person, they were like, oh, of course, let's hear them, and they were impressed.
Yeah, because it shows once again being proactive instead of reactive with the meeting. You were ready. You had your 4 questions ready. You had prepared, and what that says to them is they are important, right? If they're important enough for you to prepare for, then they feel important, right? It's just like anything. Who do you prepare for, right? You prepare for those that are important.
That's well said. That's exactly what came about. When they went well, every meeting didn't go perfectly, but when they really went well, and a lot of them did, they came away saying, I really thank you for doing that. That felt great.
Awesome. So what was the 3rd question that you asked?
3rd question is, Gary Keller says that unless you've achieved everything you wanted to in life, you're probably missing a relationship or 2. So through this exercise, my team and I are making deep connections and meeting a lot of people. Who can we introduce you to that you'd like to meet?
Very good. So what were some of the most interesting answers you got from that?
They weren't shy. They absolutely had people that they would like me to connect them with, but they had to think about it. It was really obvious to me that they had not been asked that question before or very frequently. So they had to think. We're impressed with the fact that I asked them that question, and usually had something in their industry. I had a music producer who wanted to talk to my brother-in-law who actually produces music. So that was kind of cool.
So the beauty of the question is that you are asking to help them, right?
That's right.
You're going to connect them to someone, and what the reason that maybe they were caught off guard is that coming from contribution, you know, the new ABC of the Generosity Generation, right? The old ABC was A, always B, C, closing, right? The Glengarry, Glen Ross, and the hammering of the chalkboard. And today it's ABC, A, always B, C, contributing. Always be contributing. Always be looking to provide value and give massive value first. And that question literally is just laced with contribution, and it does take people off guard when they're like they had not thought of that, and they had no they really had no agenda coming in. Did a lot of them have specific people in mind, or did they go to profession more often than not?
They went to business professions. They went to force lawyers or manufacturing. I had people somebody asked me for someone who had taken a HR-focused company public. Somebody asked me for, again, the music producer. Someone asked me for a connection for a realtor in Boston.
Did you make that connection?
I did.
Okay, because I was going to say, we know a realtor in Boston if you need one. So how about number 4? So repeat the question on number 4. I love the question. You know, it's one that we have right in 7L, and it's one that we honestly think that we should ask that more often, right? And notice that it's not asking for a referral.
That's right.
What it's really doing is it's asking. Well, I'll let you ask the question. Let's go from there.
Really, so after the first 3, it was real simple, and it simply says, "Who do you know that I should know?"
Yeah, you're really looking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now it's a compliment. And also, I am looking for connections, and they absolutely expected that question. And you know what? As these got better and better, and I got better at my system, they were already answering question number 4 way before I got to it.
Yeah. Who do I know that you would like to know, right? They were, and I have to tell you, this is genius in a lot of ways, because you have to realize one of the things that I teach a lot about Dunbar's number, which is the number 150, that our neocortex, the size of our brain that makes us human, only handles 150 quality relationships at a time. We can only really know a lot about people and think a lot about people up to 150 people. And so, well, if that's our limit, then every year our goal is to upgrade that 150. We call it Operation Database Upgrade, right? And who should you know that I need to know, or who do you know that I should know, is one of those questions that a lot of times it helps you upgrade your database, because these influential people are introducing you to other influential people, and quite honestly, they're replacing maybe somebody over here who isn't as influential or referring you as much, or just have the opportunity to refer you as much.
Right.
So you're getting connected to you're really implementing Operation Database Upgrade. And did your connections improve over these 90 days?
I tell you, I more than a handful of the latter part of the meetings were even better than the first. Since there were people that I hadn't met before, hadn't taken the time to either get to know or at least sit down with, and they came off of the exercise, so they knew what to expect, and they were referred. So it was even more special sometimes that they were referred by someone we both really valued. So they got really special towards the end.
That's fantastic.
I was excited about finishing.
Yeah, and you got better, right? I mean, that's the other thing, is the process got better, and the professionalism got better, and your preparedness got better, and you know, so what other, and by the way, Jason, I don't know if there's people that are asking questions and things like that. I know sometimes the question process is a little harder on the Google Hangout, but if they do come up, you know, this is like that permission to interject at any point comment, right? Is any time in the next 15 minutes you see one that pops up, don't be afraid to throw it in there.
Right now we don't have any, but for all of our viewers out there, there is a Q&A function here with the Google Hangout.
All the way down there.
If you have any questions at all, we'll be happy to answer them online, live on air here. And you know, if you think of something afterwards or during the replay, make sure you send us an email, and we'll be happy to answer them after the Hangout broadcast.
Awesome, thank you, Jason. And so Mickey, how did you change in the 90 days, right? How do you feel like you evolved in the 90 days?
I feel like I am absolutely a better connector these days, and I think that I'm extraordinarily comfortable with the act of just coming from contribution and just doing good and helping people, just to do that. And it's just good in so many ways that I'm just better at doing that, and that's exciting.
So what are you going to do differently from now on, right? What is that awakened within you that now you're going to do this forever, right? What thing will you do forever that maybe you didn't do before?
Well, our goal is to do one of these a week forever. I learned that this is a really fun exercise, but it's a big time commitment. I've got to sell some houses, so we want to stay. I'm going to stay focused on doing this. I can be more purposeful with who I'd like to meet, since I don't need to cram so many in 90 days. But this is not going to stop. And as I think you know, I just signed up for your coaching.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely going to help, and that was part of the evolution. And you know, you're already doing it now. What we hope to do is we can have the rubber meet the road a little bit, right, with these relationships. What you've essentially done is you've taken them probably into the referral zone, right? We have a relationship scale, you know, from 0 to 10, and 0 is somebody you've never met. 1 through 3 is somebody there's just not chemistry with, right? And I'm gonna ask you about some of those 1 through 3s, and then you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And 4 is somebody that you can spend like 3 minutes with. A 5 is somebody you could spend like 3 hours with. A 6 is somebody you could like spend a weekend with. And a 7 is like a best friend. You could spend literally like 3 weeks with them on vacation in the Bahamas, right? I mean, 3 weeks with somebody that's a pretty special relationship. And 8 is a client, somebody who has paid you money. And then the 9 and 10 is where the rubber meets the road. 9 and 10. A 9 is a champion. That's somebody who's ever referred you. And then a 10 is an ambassador, right? I mean, that's somebody who refers you multiple pieces of business every single year. They are literally, you're unpaid salespeople on the street, and that's a 10. So what you've done is you've taken these zeros in some cases and put them into the 9 or 10, which is great because even if you don't communicate with them for a while and they drop maybe down to a 6 or a 5, because you've established this standard of the 9 or 10, a piece of communication from you pops them into the 9 and 10, right? So what we have to do is create those standard pieces of communication that pops them back into the referral zone, right? So it's one of those where, but the beauty here is you've established it at a 10 or at a 9 level. So, but the problem with most people is they try to build it from a 4 to a 5, and then a 5 to a 6, and they actually never get to the 9 or 10. So it's never in a referral relationship, right? It's just in a relationship. It's casual, not causal, right? We're not causing something to happen. It's homeostatic, balanced, instead of harmonic, which is full of energy, right? Referring back and forth, value being passed back and forth. So I love that you're doing that. And so what was your follow-up, right? So, what was your follow-up in the beginning, and then did it change any through the process?
So I've identified more than a handful that already I can see working together with pretty regularly. Everyone got a thank you note. Everyone got an email. And now, to be honest, I need to develop that system of great follow-up after this thing just stopped. So I actually need some help.
Great. So if you were to create this great follow-up system, what do you think would be the ingredients of it? What do you think has to be included?
I think I have to have a way that I'm helping them at almost every touch.
Okay. And what would some of those touches be?
I think some of my normal stuff: a quick phone call, a text, the thank you note written the way you talk about writing them in 7L. We're engaging all of them on social media. We want to touch them there and build a better following there. So that's where we're going to start.
Yeah. So one quick thing.
Now, Mickey.
Oh, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I was just going to ask, do you have everybody's response from that question number 3 about who you would like to meet kind of logged, so that if somebody comes up down the line, reach out?
Yeah, that's the work. Is that I have that logged in my journal, and the work in my 90/90 follow-up time, which is in my calendar, is to simply make those connections as often as I can every day.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that is work. It's definitely work. Keeping it top of mind.
Totally work.
It wouldn't surprise me if mentally you replaced a lot of people in your head, right, with the 90 that you met. Right now you're thinking about who you can connect to them. You're thinking about how you can help them. You're thinking about, their birthdays, their social media, their lives, and probably replaced a lot of the people who maybe should have been replaced in the first place, right? Yeah,
great point. And at the end of the day, I'm looking. This will bubble up to 15 great 90/90 people, and I'm going to add 75 more to it to have a really true 90 who really get this system.
Yeah, exactly. How many of the 25 core advocates did you meet with?
All of them.
So all 25. So 25 of your 25 ambassadors?
Yep.
What was the difference between meeting with those 25 and the other 65? Was there a difference? There was,
and depending on who the other 65 was and how that introduction went from the person who referred them to me, those meetings were not always as beneficial, and they didn't always come into the meeting with an understanding of how this whole thing was supposed to feel. So the core advocates are way easier.
Yeah. So that actually, it goes kind of, Jason asked a great question earlier about were they prepared for the questions, right? But another kind of sub-question of that is, were they prepared for Mickey, right? Were they prepared for someone who was coming from contribution? And one of the questions I would have, or something that we could set up for somebody who wants to do this next, is letting people know the benefit of meeting with you, right? I think it's one of those, hey, listen, I'm not here to sell you anything or convince you of anything. I have 90, I want to meet 90 people in 90 days, and you're one of the 90 people that I really want to meet with and get to know better, right? So when you come, I'm going to ask you questions about your success, and I'm also going to ask you, like, what's your ideal client, and who can I refer you, and how is the best way to refer you, right? And having that strong benefit coming into the one-on-one, because your core advocates know you, and they know, listen, this guy's not going to sell me something. He's just here to have a conversation and learn and help me, right? There you go. You're on mute. There you go. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So the question there, I think, was what was the, I guess the big thing is your core advocates really knew where you were coming from, versus the 65 is they had to learn who Mickey was first, and then go.
Yeah, I didn't get to pick them either, so I didn't know who they were. They didn't know who I was necessarily, and they may not be into this type of thing necessarily. Yeah. So we'll get better at that.
Yeah. So what was
with
the
those
result?
65?
Go ahead, Jason. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to ask, with those 65, how much time did you spend kind of just on chat and kind of just introducing yourself before you really dove down into those pretty deep questions that you were focusing on?
Sometimes not enough. I had one person say, you know what, I feel like I'm being interviewed for a job, and I said, well, you sort of are. The job is going to be working together to help each other, but yeah, it's an interview. So that was a good lesson, as I needed the people that didn't come from my first level, I needed to take a little bit more time on the email initially, and then on the first introduction to say, listen, here's what this is all about, and there's 4 questions. I hope you'll indulge me to go over them.
I love it. So a lot of times we teach of the one-on-ones is Jason brings up a great point, is you're right. I mean, sometimes, especially if we're in high D mode, like we need to have an hour meeting in 30 minutes, we kind of go right like that, and it's like an airplane hitting at 500 miles an hour. What we really need to do is we need to have a takeoff, right, and then we go 500 miles an hour, and then we have a landing, right? And honestly, your question of who do you know I should, that's a beautiful way to land. You know, you kind of take off like this, right? Like the new 797s, where I don't know if you've seen that video, but it's like it literally takes off like that.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, if there's some coaching around it, is maybe there's a soft pedal question that you could open with, is, tell me why you got started in the business and what you love most about what you do, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I get it. I'm the same way. I tend to come on pretty intense, and I tend to go deep pretty fast. So it's like, hey, let's go there, right? Let's find out.
Yeah.
So what were the results? Like, what were the measurable results besides doing 90 meetings in 90 days?
Raising the money was a big one. I have a developer I was introduced with to, who is going to build 50 units, and that person has a relationship. We're trying to work on getting me to be that relationship instead. So that's pretty measurable. And I think the other measurable piece is that I'm just different. What I focus on every day is simply different. I turned off all of my internet advertising for the first of a little bit. I turned off all of my direct mail. We're putting everything we do into relationships.
Wow. So you raised $3 million. We covered that in the first segment with you, but we haven't actually gave that number in the second half. So you raised $3 million to essentially rehab and create your own inventory in a market that's a seller's market with low inventory. Have you sold any of those yet? Is that in process? Where's that at?
That first one is actually under contract and closes in 2 weeks.
What was the price range on that?
$320 on the back.
So $320 on the back side?
Yep.
Okay. So there's $10,000, right? I mean that in commission, right?
Oh yeah.
That is measurable. I mean, because some people might just say, well, how many sales did he get out of this, right? Which is a lag to the lead activities, right? So I mean, what else can you give us that's measurable results, right?
Yeah, I remember, I didn't go into this looking to sell houses. I went into this looking to build a mega powerful database. So beside what I told you, and the other stuff that I'm working on in terms of people who said, listen, he wants to buy, I got someone looking to sell. I've probably got about $5 million worth of stuff I'm working on as a result of this, but I'm kind of not counting that. I just kind of wanted to get involved in meeting great people and doing it the right way.
Nice.
It wasn't a sales rally.
Jason, you're leaning forward like you have a question. Did you have a question?
I was just wondering, have you ever thought about kind of making these different interviews a little bit public, so that you have people kind of vying to be, one of your next contacts, and really establishing these people as, heavy hitters in the Philadelphia area?
No, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And the people that you interviewed would probably appreciate it. Of course, they're going to want permission, right? They're going to want you to get their permission. But I love that idea, right? And then you could post it on Facebook and say, I met a great guy today. He's blah, 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 and here's who he's looking for, and here's how to refer him, and he's part of my global referral community now. And Jason, I love that idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's work.
So another thing on that too is real quickly I want to so really if you look at it, there's always a top 10%, right? So out of your 92 meetings, you probably met 9 that were just like off the charts, right?
Yeah.
They were just like, this is a life-changing relationship. So and I want you to maybe think of those people. And so what was common? What was the similarities between the top ones? What did you really know? You know how it is, right? They're just, you meet a 3%er, that top of the top person, you just tend to, you tend to know it, right? What was just different? How did they come across different? What was their behavioral style? What was their profession? So on and so forth.
There were 2 big ones. The top of the top, the 9 out of the 90, had 2 main responses to the questions, and they were very, very similar. It was a very clear pattern. The first one was they all talked about people and people first, and how the better they developed their people, the more people they met to connect with, they were just better for it. And the second piece was they never gave up, and if they had just come off something really special, they, before doing that, were right there at the steps of total failure, right? One guy who took the company public was 4 days before that, he was absolutely going to miss payroll, and it was going to be all over and shut down.
4 days.
Yeah. So they all, and through that, they learned not to give up, right? Because they all had gone through that really awful time where it was right before they were going to be great. They were absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
It was very consistent.
That's phenomenal. I mean, so one was people first, and that's such a commonality with billionaires, millionaires, successful entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. And then never give up and just keep going, right? So if you were to summarize your experiences with doing 90 one-on-ones in 90 days, how would you summarize what has happened to you or for you?
I think to summarize it, I'm absolutely a different person in that I know that if I and when I stay on this course of relationships and connections and generosity first, my business will always feel better and always feel easier and always be more powerful. It's just different. And the whole team has followed my lead. That's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah. Wow. I want that to sink in with everybody that's watching this and listening to this, is the power of what you just said, right? The happiness to it, the fulfillment of it. And then the other part of it too is just leading by example, is that you leading a more fulfilling, more generous life has propelled and inspired your team to live that same life, right? Yeah. And that's I mean, I'm not sure if I could summarize it any better. Will you tell everybody, like when they have a Center City, Philadelphia referral, how to get a hold of you and how to get you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Mickey Pascarella. My cell, give me a buzz, 215-680-1630. And I'm Mickey at themickeygroup.com.
Fantastic. Mickey, I just have to say thank you so much for being on the Gen Hangout with us today. Definitely appreciated, probably more than you know. And I also want you to know this interview is going to impact and inspire many, many people. I guarantee it, because it's the top of the 7 levels. It's done at a mastery and excellent level, and an awakening happened here that needs to happen, I truly believe, in every salesperson in America and Canada. And I'm going to summarize some of the things that came out of this, and I'm going to miss a lot because there were so many profound lessons learned, and all of us learned. I learned, from you, and Jason's questions were phenomenal, and his ideas were terrific as well. Yeah. Is, get a home court advantage. Set yourself up a challenge, and I don't care what it is. Lose 30 pounds in 90 days, or try to get 90 listings in 90 days, or whatever it may be. But I have to tell you, I would strongly suggest 90 one-on-ones in 90 days. And quite honestly, I would challenge the people that are listening to this or watching this is, hey, you know what? Do a one-day challenge. Do one-on-one tomorrow. That's your one-day challenge. Tomorrow you have your one-on-one and you go, yeah, And then if you're really inspired, do another one-day challenge, right? Because really, isn't life just a series of one-day challenges? It's really all it is. But have a home court advantage. Choose somewhere nice, like a Ritz-Carlton. Sit in the same place every time. Get to know the wait staff. Get to know the people. Sexy systems. Systems are sexy. You can be more impressive and more referable by having a process. System equals saving you stress, time, energy, and money. Systems are sexy. And I mean, I seriously, I have 3 pages of the notes here. Is use Simply Book Me as a way to remind yourself and to remind your people, your guests to meet with you. It turns out that the results are not just measurable and monetary, but they're actually internal and inspiring and fulfillment. I mean, imagine that as being your goal as a result is being more fulfilled. And becoming a better connector and having the value of the one-on-one, creating a follow-up system that makes sense, including a power note, phone call, text message, and it really needs to include social media as well. When you meet with people it's different than meeting with the people you don't know. 25 ambassadors came in, the value was already established. You could go to a new level with the conversation, whereas with the 65, we had to really get a feel for who Mickey was and what the value was there. And, I mean, seriously, people first, never give up. And to summarize, you can live a life coming from contribution, and you won't take a step backwards, and quite honestly, what you'll actually do is you'll take a step forward because of the reciprocation and the love that will come back to you. I mean, I summarized half the stuff. I have notes that I didn't even talk about. So, Mickey, I just have to say this was phenomenal. You're going to inspire a 90 days and a 90 one-on-ones and 90 days challenge. We're going to help head it up. We're going to help people do it as well. And so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. My pleasure. You and I met at a great time. I finally learned what you guys teach, and it was a just phenomenal timing. So thank you too, Michael.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you. And I would be remiss if I did not thank Jason McMillan and Viral Marketing for helping us support and make this happen, moderate this, and also ask brilliant questions and also contribute brilliant ideas as he did. Jason, thank you.
Jason, thank you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That was fantastic. For those watching, we will have a replay up on the Generosity Generation Google Plus page. And we'll include some timestamps so that you can navigate all those great ideas that were shared here today. Everybody have a terrific weekend, though. If you have any questions for Michael, Mickey, or myself, you can let us know. My email address is jason@getviral, GETVYRAL.com. And again, Michael, Mickey, thank you guys so much. That was awesome. That was brilliant, guys.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason.